You're watching Ben TV.
Beta is a multi-billion transnational company. They are the largest exporters of cashews, coconut milk and coconut water in the world. They are the ex-owners of Britannia and the ones who brought Coca-Cola to India. Today we have with us the chairman of the Beta Group, Dr. J. Rajmohan Pillai, the Nut King. His hard work, dedication and determination helped him to reach where he is today. He is such an inspiration to everybody. Let's ask him his journey to success. A warm welcome to you, sir, on our show Business Talk. So we all know about the Beta Group, but we want to know about how you came into this business.
Thank you very much for having me. It is such a pleasure to be with you. It all started when I was born in a business family. And always traveling with my father, knowing how he does things, all helped me throughout my life. So when big deals were done, I used to be the one who would take the food and give it to them when parties were actually happening. But without me knowing, there were a lot of things that I used to learn on how people acted, how people actually talked. And this used to happen from the time that I was 8 years of age and 9 years of age, because I used to enjoy the food that was being served there. Okay. So they had all the delicacies when the Russians came or the Americans came, things that we wouldn't normally have. All the delicacies used to be there. So I used to enjoy going there. It is that progress that happened when I was our business family. Whenever we used to have holidays, it was mandatory for us to go and stay in the factory. Okay. So when the 10th standard was over, the 2 months of the holidays was in the factory, while all the other people used to go to Thekadi or travel to Bombay and everything. So for me, the holidays was in the factory. And it used to be very difficult when you come back to school. They would ask, where did you have your holidays? What did you do for holidays? And I didn't have anything to say. Okay. But this was the process that was built. And also when you were young, I was not allowed to have any money. The money was only for my tuition fee, okay, for my food, for my games, okay, and the sleep. So I never carried any money with me at all points of time. So those were the kind of trainings that as a business family you get in. But things had a big twist. When I was young, till like I was 18, I was probably one of the richest boys in South India. My father was the richest, he was expanding, we used to have a S-class Benz, and well, nobody else in Kerala was having, and all of it actually changed when my father had a heart attack and he had to go into the ICU. And there was a business deal between Russia and India which actually collapsed, and we were the biggest affected party. So my father at that point of time, from having a 16 crore fixed deposit, had to go into a minus of 40 crores of rupees. And this in 1982 is like about 4,000 crores of this point of time. And all the assets that he had at that point of time, other than, which is like you were talking about, the fixed deposits and the land, the building and factories, all of it was valued at 3.5 lakhs of rupees. So you can imagine the disparity is between 40 crores and 3.5 lakhs of rupees. So the banks insisted that if they had to refund my father, that I have to also sign the papers. I did not know, he did not know, because he was in the ICU, in the hospital, and two of my cousins were in charge. So they, out of desperation, came to the college. I was studying in Fatima College. They came to the college, got me out of the class and made me sign some papers. I never question somebody from the office comes. There is an assumption that it is being sent by the father, so you actually follow that. It's only after my father was discharged from the ICU, came to the hospital room, that I went there and I reported that I had signed. So he called for this, what is this and everything, and they said that the banks were not willing to pay even the salary amount if I had not signed. So he said, we have to go back on it, it is wrong. You will never be able to. I know how difficult it is to repay back such a large amount of money. So you need to actually change and do that. My mother was somebody who wanted to always do the right thing. She did not believe in actually running away from any problem. Okay. Even though she did not know anything about business, this is something that she actually believed in. While my father was extremely practical and he did not think, not only my father, even my uncles, nobody really thought that this was a liability that could be paid. It was the highest liability that anybody had in South India at that point of time. I was very much a mother's boy and I actually wanted to keep up her word, and then I said, okay, let me try taking it up. So my father said, you are a fool. I mean, you don't know what, you have never made any money, so you think that you can do it, but it is not possible. But anyway, I decided that I am going to get in. My father was not able to come to the office and everything, so I started getting in. But everything looked extremely bleak because there was no money actually coming in, no business actually happening. The banks, even though they promised to have finance, they said that unless we pump in some more money, this is not going to happen. So all it is was very chaotic. It is only because when I was young, I did not know consequences that I started deciding I am going to do. So I went into the market, I went into where the raw material was being purchased. I talked to them and I said, look here, I need more raw material for the factories to run. I went and talked to the workers and said, look here, if you start working, we have orders which can actually do it. All of them started saying, okay, if you really believe, let us do it, but you need to give me money by the weekend or in 2 weeks' time and whatever, because they also had a lot of money that was owing to them and everything. So they started taking very small, cautious steps to do that. Meanwhile, the sales tax department at that point of time, what is GST today, they were after me for money. The income tax was after me for money in varied. I had only 175 legal cases to handle, and then along with it all the government departments, because when you have a big business running and suddenly it stops, all of them get into a panic. So part of my time was going to them and saying that, look here, you have two choices. Either to kill me or I will keep paying you small amounts, whatever I can. And everybody, the kind of money that you are talking about is so big that there is nothing that you can do. They said, okay, everybody said we'll give you a little time, 3 months, 4 months, whatever. But the figures were very large. I did not know how to pay in 3 months or whatever. So slowly what happened is the operations slowly started. They were good orders because my father had created a very good reputation. So the quality was good. So the orders were always coming in. And the pressure that once we started paying for the first stock that was actually supplied, once the workers were paid even quarter of their money and everything, they all started getting excited that there was a small rotation and everything. And there was this collector there. And there used to be a system that you cannot pay money directly to the sales tax department. You had to actually ask them for a challan, then fill it up and then only give. They wouldn't give me the challan unless I told them how much money that I had to give. And the monies were so large, I had like 10,000 rupees to pay where they had 10 crores to receive. So they wouldn't give me the challan. So I went to the collector and said, okay, this is all I have. I'm willing to give it to you and whatever. He said, anyway, issue to this young boy whatever challan that you want. So I filled it and started paying. But all these things I did not even have time to worry, because by the time I hit the bed I was just sleeping because of so much of work. It was almost 16 hours of work every day. And too many problems. Every day you would get up with so many problems, so you didn't have time to worry. So you kept on going on this whole system for some time, till in about 1 or 2 years, and the time was passed because there was so much of problems for me. People started forgetting that they had money that I owed them. So they were coming and talking to me as though I was a regular customer. They were willing to give me more credit. The workers were happy. Everybody seemed to actually forget, including the bankers. Once money started coming in internationally, it actually always comes to the bank, and then only we can draw it. They started becoming nice to me. The collector started becoming nice. The collector, what he did was he wrote a note in this file that, look here, even though it is a large amount of money, and even if the payments are very small, they have an intention to pay. That actually made, and I did not realize that what the liability that happened at that point of time was my lottery ticket. Because it is only working during that period of time that actually taught me within the next 10 and 15 years, which possibly most other people couldn't, which I can actually realize from my colleagues and from my other people who were doing business at the same point of time. First, none of the other people who had the liability at that point of time, because everybody was affected at that point, came out of it. 6 of them actually suicided on the way because they couldn't pay, and the banks had actually attached everything. The kind of liabilities that I had, they would ask me, why are you having the car? Why don't you just sell the car and give me the money? They didn't know the car was already attached by the bank. I couldn't sell it. The house was already attached. I couldn't sell. I had to stay in the same house because that was the only house. I couldn't buy a house. I couldn't rent a house. And many people, when you are looking from outside, it doesn't look, because I have not changed the house, I have not changed the car and everything. It looks the same. But they don't realize that all of it is not attached. You can't do anything. You can't sell. You have to live with that, and you don't have much of a choice. So working through that system, by a system by which you have to create money without having money, was something actually I learned. Because most of the time when people come to me, they are looking for money. They think that from money they can make money. It doesn't work that way. Most of these most successful people today have made money from nothing. They have not got their fathers to give them money, or their parents to give them, or any one of them. If you look at the senior Ambani, he came out without any money. If you look at the Facebook chairman, he came out with no money. None of the people, Amazon, all of them are people who created money without having any money. And that is the technique, and there is a lot to learn, because I was forced into it. It was so strange that when I was 14, the famous Vijay Mallya used to rent out my flat in Bombay. He was staying there until he became the chairman of United Breweries. That is how the whole thing was. And I had actually visited that flat. And it was so well furnished. I said, okay, this is all the life that I need. I need this flat. There used to be a video and lots of cassettes that he used to have. I would watch the movie and say, this is life. I don't want to do any work. This is all.
You were 14
I was 14 at that point of time. But what I realized is that, look here, there is a life. You can't just be watching TV and watching movies all your life. You would get bored out of it. And that was created from that particular liability that happened. The only thing is, my father also taught me the business, and the reason that you should keep on doing things every day, irrespective of what actually is the outcome. So you keep doing whatever, even if I am having an interview with you, I concentrate on it and do it, because I don't know what is the effect of it. But there is an effect if you earnestly do everything on a daily basis and keep on doing it, it will have an effect. And I am one of the people who have benefited by
Living
that.
example.
It is really a person who has
I
benefited by that.
So like you said, you were just 18, that means a young boy. My God, so with all these liabilities, how did that idea come? Where do you get the idea for these setups and all at the age of 18?
You don't. I mean, I think that the necessity is the mother of invention.
Okay.
So unless you are actually pushed to the wall, you don't. And especially a child who had all the assets, to think that I don't need to do anything, it is not very easy.
Okay.
But I think that when a push comes to a shove, you will find a way. And human beings' life has a lot of potential, which you have to keep on going. And it took me 27 years to pay back the liability. It is not as though it took. But by the time that about 10 years back, nobody even realized I was still paying the liability. It's a very strange situation. I knew I had the liability. But everybody was thinking that I was doing very well and everything, and all the assets were still with the bank. It took me 27 years, and like whenever I used to get a call from Indian Overseas Bank, was our biggest debtor. I owed money to them. Whenever a call came from them, I was already afraid whether I had not paid the interest, whether the company couldn't pay. So one day they called me, one manager called me. I said, "What is the problem?" He said, "I want to come and see you and your mother together." I said, "Come," and then he came over. He handed over the property documents of then at that point of time things worth about 200 crores back to me.
Wow.
I didn't realize what was 3.5 lakhs in 82 had by default grown in value. Because I couldn't sell it. It's not because I didn't want to. I would have sold most of it if I had to just pay the liability. By default, the prices had increased and everything. So that went off to the family and everybody, everything. So that was a very major achievement that I could do that without selling these properties.
So your father was there that time when you got the
property? No. Unfortunately, he died 3 years back. 3 years before this action. I would have loved if this, but I didn't even know that it would happen at that point of time. I couldn't have predicted that it would happen. There were systems that were built in for that liability. I really did not predict this.
You cried that time when you were...
No. There was nothing. There was no happiness at that point of time. You had actually worked so hard. But it was very strange. Even when that happened, this happened in 2008. In 1995, my brother died. And by 1997, I had to take over his liability. And you should understand, he was a much bigger businessman than my father. When a bigger man falls, the liabilities are even bigger. So by the time I got these properties back, I already had liabilities about 6 times bigger than this. And that got over only in 2018. So but by the time I had developed systems to pay liabilities, I had developed the businesses big enough for it. Because one of the things that I realized is that if you have a large liability, unless you have a very large business, you cannot pay back the liability. So you cannot, if you have only, for example, 3.5 lakhs of rupees, and you have a liability of 40 crores, you cannot cut down cost and pay the 40 crores. Whatever cost that you cut down, nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. So the only way is for you to make it into a system by which the 40 crores looks small. And that is the challenge. So once you reach 100 crores, the 40 crores becomes 40%. But if you reach 200 crores, it's 20%. When you reach 400 crores, it becomes 10%. So if you have a business where you can make 10 or 15% profit, that looks manageable. But any debt that you're taking, you're still taking debt. At those point of time, the interest rates used to be 24 to 28%. and then there used to be compounded interest if you don't pay. It would end up at 33 or 34%. So like a liability of like 5.5 crores. In like 15 years, 16 years, it go to 100 crores, 150 crores. So it was a very strange system because inflation was very high, rupee was getting devalued all the time and everything. But in all that, I want something that I didn't realize it, that the asset prices were also going up. Which I didn't know because I couldn't sell it. I just couldn't do it. So that actually helped me in the longer run. But still, when this happened in 1997, I still had to go through a lot of struggle. So the same thing goes over. But I don't regret anything of it. I think that those were the learning times for me.
Okay. So how did you come up with the name for your company?
Okay, Beta was actually we were called KJP Group. That was my father's, K. Janardhan Pillai is my father. Just before my brother died, after he had actually lost Britannia, he put this name. So it was only because of that that I made my company name. Even my father was alive at that point of time. And with this blessing, I made Beta Group. Beta is one of the, like Alpha Beta is one of the thing, and it is always a process in progress. So the beta version is something that you do out of a lot of research, and you keep on continuously improving it. And that is something that I believed that we should actually do and continue doing it. We should never be as though we have completed the job, because anything can be improved. There is nothing that cannot be improved. So you are on a constant process of improvement, and if you don't keep on doing it, you have lost it. So the competition is so high that unless you are still in the beta stage and knowing that you are in the beta stage, there is still scope for improvement, you cannot ever reach.
So what is the uniqueness of your beta group, and tell us what services and products you have to offer for us?
Okay, we are the one of the largest in the food business, both in cashews, in dried fruits and nuts, as well as coconut milk, coconut water. That is how it actually started. But in the process, I knew that, look here, there is profits in this, but the profits are very much lower than most of the other businesses that are new businesses. Like one of the examples are like today we are taking shares in an IT company because the profits in that are far higher than the traditional food companies. The only advantage of a food company is that imagine that you are born with Cadbury's Coca-Cola, you almost die with Cadbury and Coca-Cola. But when you could be born with an Akai and many other brand names, which after 15 years it changes, then you are in a Nokia telephone, then you see that Nokia is no more there, then you have another, today it's Samsung and Apple. So things keep on changing in the new world. The average life of these new companies are only 30 years. The life of food companies are much more longer. So all the food companies that are fairly well established so I have maintained my interest in the food industry because that has a longevity which is much higher. We have actually gone into entertainment, making movies, we have got into oil business because there was an association with an American company by which that came into us. So we have gone into logistics. All of it is very necessary in that. But I have tried remaining an expert in food industry. I've believed that whenever we get good people to run other good businesses, I concentrate on them, help them build businesses, and that is the areas that we have got in.
Okay, that means if there are other opportunities like in IT or entertainment, you're ready to expand.
Definitely. The crux of it is to the CEO of the company. It is actually the head of that company. If I can actually work with him and he can understand a whole concept. Like we have, we are helping a sports company develop.
Okay.
So I truly believe that entertainment, sports, IT is going to be huge future in a country like India and even in Southeast Asia. So the kind of scope that you will see a revolution that is happening in sports, because sports is not a very major industry in India. The only sport that is doing very well is cricket. Cricket is like a religion right now. All the other sports are just coming up right now. But slowly it will all start opening up, and when it opens up, it is a very major industry. So I have already got into all these. I believe that these are future. Got into yoga, into football, into all kinds of sports, including the inter-corporate tennis, cricket, all of it, because all of it is kind of actually the future. Along with IT, I think that IT has a great potential, because the COVID has exaggerated the requirement of IT, but that is the future, because the technology is changing lives. And everything that actually is happening around. Today we are meeting people, whether like it is like your friend Lakshmi is in America, but you are meeting as though you are here at any point of time. And they are making it so easy to connect. Earlier, even owning a computer used to be a technology. Today, with a one finger touch, you can actually, so they are making it as simple as possible. I believe that they are making a whole universe in the internet, very similar to what you are having in the normal self. Today with 3D and everything, it is like they are trying to make it as similar as possible as what is happening in the world, and that will actually happen. That progress is there. I am one of the unfortunate people who are not so savvy in IT, because things have just changed so very fast. But I know that there is huge potential.
So in your business, have you ever considered any partnerships, sponsors, vendors? Have you considered something like that?
Definitely. All the new businesses that we are talking about is where we might have up to 50% or below. We even have 11%, 15%. It is basically other companies that we are helping them grow. So we are looking for partners. We are looking for what we call as joint ventures, where we remain a minority. But there are most of the people in India or internationally, they don't know how to do business. Most of them want to do business, but there is no actual knowledge that is even taught on how to do business, and that is actually an art. And that only it's like acting or comparing or any of it. There is an art. A lot of people might want to do it, but between a want and how, there is a very big difference. And that is what I think that I can mentor and help them. Accordingly, a lot of people keep approaching me. So many people have so many different ideas. Nothing to say that my idea is the only right way, because there are many ways to the same destination. But I have developed a particular kind of way which seems very successful, which I try to tell them. And if they agree, we work together to achieve that.
So when is the Beta Group entering the Fmcg sector?
We are planning. When we actually sold Britannia, we had a non-compete agreement, which we actually gets over only next year, March. So we are hoping that in September, we will be back in the FMCG, because we were the largest in India and along with it in 5 other countries. A lot of people don't know that Britannia was controlling 98% of all the snack food in New Zealand. We were controlling about 60% of all the biscuits in Malaysia. We were the largest in Pakistan. We had businesses in Hong Kong, Singapore. We were the largest in dried fruits and nuts in that whole region. the ambition of my brother was actually to make it one of the largest food companies in the world.
Okay.
So our knowledge in the FMCG, our knowledge in this, we are the ones who brought in Coke into India. And we owned 76% of Coke. So to have a company like Coke decide that we are the right partners to come to India also means that our knowledge is there. So we need to start using that knowledge, which is because of the non-compete agreement we couldn't use it, to get back into the industry. So we are hoping that by September next year we will be able to get back.
So in this world, because of this pandemic, everybody has been affected, especially I think the more business high class people and the lowest people, not the middle people. So it has affected Beta Group in any way?
Definitely. I think that it has affected, but whether it has affected adversely or not is the question. It has actually affected. What I believe is, basically it has affected the people who were already going down. It has actually exaggerated problems. And that, like companies that are, like for example, I'll take Britannia as an example. Britannia's sales actually increased during that period of time, during the lockdown period of time. Consumption of cashews increased during lockdown because people were in the house and eating more cashews, eating more biscuits. So the grocery sales that actually increased during that period of time. So it is a question of now entertainment increase, Netflix, all of them increase. So there are a lot of productions that are actually happening even during the COVID time because the requirement was so huge that it is all increasing. Lot of movies that were not able to be released got released during that time, which was created earlier. All these happened. So what Corona has basically done, there are exceptions, is that if there is a good thing that was happening, it was actually increasing that. If there was a downturn, it was actually accelerating that. It actually accelerated problems. Like even in a human body, if you have a problem, Corona exaggerates that problem. So if you already have diabetics, if you already have a asthma problem, then it actually explains. But for a healthy person, normally you can come out of it without much of a problem. So it is a very strange situation of actually, yes, there are some industries like tourism which has been very badly affected. But even then, at the peak of Corona, even in America, there is a company called Airbnb, which is selling homes in rent, which got listed, and the listing prices increased 10 times because there is a hope that they are a very solid company and that will actually do very well. So people have found out different ways to actually help. People are buying online, so most of the products are selling online, all the clothes, everything is selling equally well. Today cars have started selling better. It was only a question of waiting for it. Everybody's income, especially people who have like a government job or a normal job, their incomes have been credited to the account, but they don't have any opportunity to use it. Because people who are actually going out and eating or entertaining themselves or traveling, all that money is actually in the bank. Today, after the vaccine comes in and after it becomes relaxed, you can imagine that everybody around the world are going to just use that money because right now the children don't have a concept of saving so much. So that is going to be a big rush. So you can actually take that opportunity because this is actually going to really change that whole economy.
So you are known as the nut king. So it's such a huge responsibility to maintain that, no? So what all responsibilities you take for that, to maintain it, to be the nut king?
It is not actually it's a very strange situation because when somebody from Andhra Pradesh wanted to send me a telegram, the only thing he put was Nut King Kollam and it reached me. Because he thought that that would actually reach. He didn't have my address and everything. I got it. So the postman came and delivered. And that is how I got to know about, I thought about this brand, and that is how I made a brand called Nut King.
Okay.
So this comes from your actions. So it doesn't come something that you have to actually do.
Okay.
It is like a superstar like Mohanlal and Mammootty. They have been crowned superstars because of their actions that they have done. So they don't need to do anything else. I don't think that I have to try to do anything else because they have already named me this. So I believe that. And it's a very strange name because the name Nut King, even though in India it might sound good, it is a very, it has a different connotation in America.
I know.
So all these things. But the only advantage of that is people don't forget. So that is the great advantage. And then for it to be related to nuts is very, very easy.
Okay.
So the brand names have these advantages and disadvantages. Any brand name has this problem because most of the names has in different languages, in different situations, has different meanings.
So do you have any special mantra or technique to be successful?
I think that everybody has a mantra. The only mantra is to try to understand what your potential is. And I truly believe that everybody has a particular reason to be born in a particular family, in a particular place, in a particular time, in a particular culture, in a particular environment. Everybody has different reasons. Some people, even though like a very big superstar might have been the son of a government servant, but his what we call as vasana is to acting. He develops acting friends and then he gets into it and then slowly he becomes very big. So that is what nature puts you in. There is a seed that actually germinates, but the seed will germinate only in the right condition. So the biggest challenge for you, for almost anybody, is to find out what you are. It is the seed is not like an orange or an apple which is very fixed. Seed in a human body is like you can almost be anything, whether you want to be a photographer or whether you want to be a politician. The difference is very huge, but to understand that that is what you are actually going to do and that is what you are going to live with is a very big challenge. Whether you want to be a sportsman or another man, because the challenges are very similar. But once you are able to realize that this is what you have, then it becomes very easy because almost everything around it becomes very easy. There is no requirement. I was actually pushed into business. I was lucky that I was in the right environment to actually grow. So even when I was studying like BCom, I was already facing all the problems with the company law board. I was studying the book in the college, which I was using in my office to reply to letters from the company law and everything. Now, to be in an environment where you can actually study and do the work at the same point of time. So exams were by accidents. I actually went to the college only about 15 or 20 days a year. But I knew accountancy, I knew this thing because I was actually churning out balance sheets on the other side. So they were only teaching balance sheets. I was dealing with labor problems, the labor law. I needed to know the law because I had to deal with labor. So going back to the class and writing an answer was a practical answer. It was not that I could not read the full book. It was not something that I knew what the wordings in the book was, but all of it was practical. Luckily for them to give me a first class on that was a good thing for that.
For us, you are like an icon. So everybody would love to know what you do in a day. Like how is your routine, what all you do. Could you tell us about that?
I am a very early riser. I kind of get up around 3 o'clock every day. My best time is between 3 and 11 o'clock. So I kind of do lot of emails, lot of writing. I do my meditation, yoga. I do my tennis and everything before that, and almost finish all my routine work before 11 o'clock. So after 11 o'clock, it is all about future and everything. I'm a lot more relaxed. By about 7 o'clock, my battery actually becomes a little duller. It is like your mobile phone. It becomes duller. By about 8:30, I'm ready to go to bed, and I kind of switch off by 9 or 9:15. So I off the telephone and I just go and lie down. So this has become a routine. And one of the thing is, during that morning time, the kind of creativity and the kind of output that you can make, because there is not much of a disturbance, is very, very high, including your reading or your writing or your emails or your decisions to be made. So normally I allow that to happen, and over a long period of time it has helped me because of following this routine of up to 11 o'clock and the future. Unless you have a particular meeting or a particular problem, you tend to keep to that schedule.
So along with your business, I think you have written 3 books, right? And I think one book, Siddharthan, got Vaila Ramavarma Award in 2019. So that's about a story which you heard from your brother. So tell us something about your books and writing.
I was very glad that my first book, which is called The Wasted That on My Brother, because there was so much of information and sadness in me, it had to come out in one way or the other. When I was a child, I was dyslexic, so I couldn't write. I mean, like words used to be very difficult, understanding used to be very, very difficult. So it was a very big challenge that I had so much of information and a story to tell, but I couldn't do it. So I got the help of a journalist called Govinda Gutti, who was a marvelous journalist, to come and listen to me. So I would tell him the story and he would start writing down. It was such a big success that it went into 6 editions, and it was translated into all the languages in India. And it was actually distributed in America, in the libraries in America, Penguin actually published it. So it was kind of an international launch. Even though Penguin India did it, there was a lot of curiosity all over the world, and that got a lot of publicity. And that is how I knew that if I tell a story, that could actually be exciting. So then I did a story on my father when he was still alive, but he had actually a paralysis. He actually had a lot of story, but he was like at that point of time the cashew king. But because the biggest problem in life is, even if somebody has gone to the peak, if he lives another 20 or 25 years, everybody forgets him. It's best to die when you're in the peak so that people remember your good times. A lot of people who have actually done so very well, like it becomes very difficult to be actually forgotten, because there is somebody else who has taken up the position. By the time Prem Nasir died, Mammootty had already taken the position and everybody. So if he had lived even longer, people would even forget that there was a Prem Nasir. So I really thought that story had to be said. And DC Book, Current Book House published that story. That got into 3 editions for a Kerala paper. That was for a Kerala lingual Malayalam book, and that was successful. Then there was a story. Then the most difficult time of my brother was during his legal cases time. And the businesses he had already sold, and he was only trying for businesses when he came and actually stayed with me. So we were traveling together. We were actually, all the companies that he wanted to take over, I became the director. So I was talking to him. Lot of time actually, like quality time with him, I would spend. It was during that time that he started telling about a particular story. The story used to be told, like we were having so many problems. You would be told as like almost like a 1 page a day. Next 3 pages will come after 1 week and everything. Only whenever I feel he is depressed, I would actually entertain him by asking him about the story and what happened to Siddhartha, how did it happen and everything. So this happened in bits and pieces over a long period of time. actually the information was with me. I also got into so many problems after his death that I couldn't come out with anything of that sort. But over a period of time, when my brother's liability got over, that was a time that lot of recollections actually happened. And lot of memories started coming in. And then I thought that I should pen it down. So that is how this penning it down and it actually happened. It's actually a very emotional story that my brother said about, it has a half look like what he would have wanted really his life to be and how it actually came out in that. So that is how this book writing came in. So among all the book, all the time that you do business and you have all the other meetings, when one of the greatest way to get your emotions and everything out is to write and tell a story. And it makes a very, like for me, I don't know what it really is, it is like giving birth. So when the book actually comes out, it is like a great relief for you that so much of emotions that you have been actually having is actually penned down and it has actually come out.
So when we look at you itself, we can make out that you're a person who give importance to your health. So you were a national tennis player also, right? And you have a resemblance to Leander Pace too. So could you tell us something about your tennis life?
I think that one of the things that kept me sane throughout was my passion for tennis. Actually, I liked cricket more than tennis. My father kept on saying that, look here, cricket you can play only up to a particular age, and the ball is too hard if it hits your head. And that time we didn't have so many helmets and so many protections. That was how cricket was being played. So he forced me into tennis. So regularly to get into the habit of playing tennis, because that is a time, like I normally play for about 1.5 hours or 2 hours, that you actually forget about everything. And you get into that kind of a situation. But I was fairly good even from when I was young. So what actually happened was, when I was 45, I got a little, when I was 40, I took my doctorate because I had a little more time, things were a lot more settled and everything. And when I was 45, I had a Canadian coach had actually come to our club. So whenever he was free, I used to play with him and he actually improved my techniques. And then I decided that I want to know how good I am around in the world. So I played what you call as an ITF, that's the International Tennis Federation's match in Malaysia, and I got a gold medal. Over 45. Worldwide championship. That is just to know how good I actually was in that situation. It has nothing to do with taking it as a career or anything. But because even before that, when I was in college, we were the silver medalist in the country. And we got selected for the Indian team and everything. But by the time I had so much of business and so much of work, I could not do anything about it. And even though I was a good player, I never thought about that to be actually my career. My career was always business and I enjoyed it. Even though all the problems that used to happen, I actually miss that whole excitement of having so many problems and having solved it over a long period of time. It was a very, very exciting time. To the extent when I talk to a lot of people, it looks like another life from right now, because it looks so different from when you have most of your problems solved to when you were in the midst of problems and creating solutions for it. So almost every day, if you did not solve all the problems, you were actually in major problems. So from there to actually take a little more relaxed view, I really miss it. It is beautiful, but the tennis actually was something that has been constant in my life, and that has actually helped me being very sane and healthy through my life.
Okay. Like you said, you entered into business at a very young age. So has it affected your family life in any way because of this profession?
I think that everybody who is in full time in profession, there will definitely be an effect to the family. There is nothing to do. But I think that everybody will enjoy being with somebody who is successful. The art is that, like, if you are Mahatma Gandhi's children or grandchildren, you are happy that he was Mahatma Gandhi. I mean, he didn't have any time for the family.
Yeah.
There is nothing that he could do. But he is somebody who found what he was supposed to do, and which is a very fortunate thing, because otherwise he would have been a lawyer in South Africa, and a very mediocre lawyer. But when he came into India as a freedom struggle, he actually found the seed was in the right pit, the right place for it to grow. It just blossomed.
Okay.
So the whole point is that once you are happy with what you are doing, then all the other things can actually work out far better, and then it all helps. So I always say that one of the greatest solution to almost everything is success. So but success will come only out of a lot of hard, continuous work. So you need to have patience for it to come. You don't know when it will come. It is like when I got the documents from IOB, I was not happy.
Yeah.
It's a process that, and you're not, most of the time when you get an award or when you get a cup or anything, you are not happy because you've gone through the process.
Yeah.
It is a natural thing to keep on happening. But definitely everybody is affected because of that. But there is a beauty that everybody likes to say that you are associated with that person, you are part of it. Like last time I was traveling on a flight, somebody was sitting next to me and he said, I asked him what he was doing. I said, I am the one who stitches dresses for Mohanlal. And he was so happy that he was proudly saying that. So one time when we were taking a movie, we had interviewed somebody, he was saying, I am working on actually this one of the art films. I am a cinema photographer in an art film movie. The next time I met him, he was proudly saying, Slumdog Millionaire, I am the one who worked. He didn't realize when it was being made, it is a Slumdog Millionaire, which is a very successful movie. Even he did not know that it was going to be. He thought it was kind of an art movie that was being made, and he was working in that. So that is how it is. I mean, like everybody seems to be working. You don't know what the outcome is. But today he is very proud that he was the person. I have met him while he was in that. He was not at all happy. He never expected that to be part of his CV.
Yeah, maybe like today I can tell everybody that I interviewed the Nut King.
I really hope so.
I don't know. Let's see.
I really hope.
Yeah. And now tell us something about your future plans or new ventures or anything of the Vita Group. Can tell.
Yes. Like right now, one of our greatest focus is to get into actually developing young people into their own businesses. So we are actually looking at, like I told you, whether it is in the IT, whether it is in sports, whether it is in the entertainment, which are three areas that I believe that there is a lot of scope that is actually happening around the country and in the world. If there are good startups, if there are good people that are coming up, normally it takes me at least 3 meetings for me to know about them, and then to actually help them develop, grow and everything. So I like even my companies to think about us as kind of a startup, because I think the future is, unless you start thinking like a startup and unless you are as starved as a startup, you don't have any access. Anybody who is fat and unable to move is finished in this whole thing. So today everything is lean, very crisp, and people want things to be done correctly, and consumers have become very spoiled. So they will not wait a long time for a goods to actually be delivered. If they don't like it, they will say no. Even after they try it, if they don't like it, they will
openly
say,
say it.
unless they are really pampered. Even movies, unless even if you made a movie for 40 crores and 50 crores, they will say in the first 5 minutes that it's a
Yeah,
bad
I
movie.
know.
By the time the tweet is already
Yes,
gone or
Facebook,
SMS,
everywhere.
is okay, this is not. And the mistake can be the actor and actress, or the plot, or the cinematographer, or the music. It can be anything. But they have become so spoiled that unless you are very good, you cannot get through it. And like movies are great example of beautiful movies, great stories coming out, but people are rejecting it by the dozens. They don't care the kind of work, even for a small interview, the kind of work that needs to be done. You can imagine making a 3 hour of movies with the kind of people in locations, outdoor, indoor, the kind of coordinating. It is terrible, and for people to just look at it for 5 minutes.
Judge it after 5 minutes.
It is. But that is the same thing with whether it is a food product, all the work that you have done, whether it is a physical entertainment that is being done. In any of the industry, the consumers have become so selective that unless you are extremely good, you are out of it, and there is no way that you can.
Competition.
And so then you need to be that kind of active, agile, understanding, and connect with them, and continuously connect. It is not that I can act like a Prem Nasir today and hope that movie will do. He connected at that point. He needs to keep on changing and keep on adapting to the new places, to the new things. And even by between the time that you are starting a movie and ending the movie, people have already changed. So their emotions have changed. So it has become such a dynamic situation. So unless you have very lean, hungry organizations, you have no way to succeed. So that is the area that we are looking. We are looking for good people to head and promote these kind of things.
Sir, you are an icon for everybody. So would you like to give us some message or advice for the new generation or the new business people?
Definitely. The basic thing that we should always understand is that we need to align ourselves extremely well with the consumer and keep on understanding them. And if you understand them and make a product for them, it will always succeed. They will actually relish and crown you. But if you don't understand, be in tune with them, you have no future. Thanks
a lot for coming to our show, sir.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure that your father and brother will be so proud of you for the pain they have gone through. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you so much.
You're watching Ben TV.